Blessings to all. My name is Max Mupese, and you're now watching Elevate the Mic. And today we have a special guest, someone I really call a true entrepreneur, somebody who's a visionary, and somebody you want to learn from. We have the one and only Brandon, aka BuDz. How you doing?
My dude. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Always, always.
Yes. Now, a lot of people are watching this interview and are wondering, okay, who's this person sitting next to Max? Who's Max sitting next to this person, or vice versa? They want to know your story. They want to know what you're about. And I've had the privilege to know you years from probably more than 5 to 10 years almost. And I also saw your evolution as somebody who started as an artist, or even before that, being an artist, you're also an entrepreneur. The spirit of entrepreneurs in you. So what made you start in the music business or even in the entertainment business? Because you started off as an artist and an entrepreneur at the same time. So could you tell us about that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, definitely artist first. When it came to the music, when I went to Marymount, the people I was hanging out with, it was super multicultural. So I was just meeting all different types of people from every walk of life. So right there, I started, we just hung out. We started a little group of people. We'd freestyle at lunch, the typical thing, piff, this and that. And then it grew into something where, we'd start recording at my crib, but then 2 friends became 4 friends, 4 friends became 8. And now I have my mom upstairs yelling at me, being like, yo, you can't be recording all these thugs in my crib. So through that, I was like, okay, well, there's clearly something here. There's a need for recording music,
Right.
And if I was able to find this many people in just my small circle, imagine if I actually brought this to the public, how much we could actually do with it. So it was at that moment and through that kind of struggle where it's like, okay, I need to get out of the house. I'm getting hassled from the moms. And I was like, okay, well, let me get a spot. Let me rent out something. There's something really that I could do here. So it was at that moment where the business side kicked in through something kind of being a hurdle. There was my business, my music was being stopped. So I was like, okay, we got to figure out something so that we can make as much music, as much noise, anytime that we want.
Got it.
So it was at that point I actually found a DJ Horg, who is also a vet in the Montreal scene. He had a studio that was rocking for years before I was even starting music. I hit him up. I said, yo, look, I need a spot. I'm not too sure. So I know you already got your thing working. Maybe I take it every second day. And it was at that point he was like, yeah, sure. I'm going on tour anyways. This is what it's going to cost. Do your thing.
Got it.
And that was the first way that Makeway started to get formed outside the house.
Got it. And are you talking about the same building where you were recording or even focusing on your music? It was the same building as Montreal Canadians, if I'm not mistaken, downtown Montreal?
No, it was actually before that. This was on Saint Denis.
Right.
Yeah, it was this place that was a porn editing studio and a tattoo studio all attached. So when you're walking down the studio, you see something going on there. You keep walking, you see someone getting tattooed over there,
Right.
and then you walk into the studio. It was really it was a vibe.
Okay. That's interesting.
A shared space, but with real creatives.
Okay. So from that experience, you ended up moving into the building of Montreal Canadiens, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, so after there, they were telling me, every time you're here, you're too busy. And I was like, well, yeah, that's what we're doing, So but then also another same kind of hurdle. Someone's trying to stop me from my music. Nah. So that's when I found the 1180 St. Antoine building, which was the old jam room across the Bell Center that everybody that was been doing music the past 30 years in Montreal definitely knows. And that's when that building really started, a small little room. But now I wasn't sharing it with anybody, and it was my own little bubble,
That's great.
And that's where I recorded a lot of great people like Enima, K-Bands, Ruskov, that whole crew. These were the early days where we were all just figuring it out, They were all just getting out of the basement studios. I was just starting up my main studio, and I was figuring out everybody's sound and how to really bring things together in English and in the French scene.
That's amazing. And it makes me think of another question I was going to ask you about investing in yourself or even taking that leap of faith. I understand from what you're telling me is that there was a moment that just clicked and made you realize, okay, you need to make a shift. So based on the city of Montreal, because there's a lot of things that could influence you, what would you say is one of the main things that influence your entrepreneurial spirit?
I've always been influenced by the artists. the music, the people that I meet, the passion that I see coming from other people, and how I could mirror that. Because when I see passion in artists, it just makes me think of myself. So I'm like, yes, like that's what you need to be. That's what, the kind of energy you need to grasp to really make this work. So my influence is every day coming from different artists. Just keep on being passionate. If there was no passionate artists in the city, I wouldn't want to do what I'm doing.
Right. That's why you mentioned you collaborated with other artists who are passionate right now, who are making their names, like Kent, Enima, K-Bands, and all of the above. Got it. Makes sense. And now, when it comes down to becoming or even being an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
So how would you say you're able to navigate the balance between your true vision and meeting industry expectations for the most part?
Say that one again?
So when it comes down to being an entrepreneur, right? So how would you say you're able to balance between staying true to your vision and meeting industry expectations?
Well, I mean, it's almost the same thing, because I feel like something that the industry is expecting from people nowadays is for you to be your most unique self. And it's self-identity. It's finding your own sound and your own personality when you're creating content and showing the people. This is what people want these days. You know, like, yes, there's a couple, like, you know, these generic things that everyone's always gonna like,
Right.
but you see the people that are really stars, the people that really do the most with their careers are the ones that are unique and individuals. And with how the music industry is going now, where social media has allowed for so many independent artists to push themselves through their own content and their own platforms, there's no longer you have to be this or you have to be that to blow up, because they have this in their books that say, you know, the next artist needs to be a da-da-da, you know, of this race, of this color, of this age. And it's not like that anymore. You could find an 80-year-old woman blow up on TikTok because she still has a beautiful voice, you know, or you could find anything of every walk of life too, you know. And that's what's so amazing about social media and how the industry has progressed, is because now you don't need all that. You don't need the craziest budget. Actually, the more original you are, the less money you have to spend.
It makes me think for real, because when you realize a lot of people like to say, man, we could do this to go viral, I could do this, but it seems like every content that goes viral, or for the most part, are the ones that you least expected, the ones that you just be organic in yourself.
For sure. You could spend $5,000, $20,000 on a music video, or I could go outside and just do something really creative on your iPhone, and I might get more engagement, more views, and more people talking about me than you.
That's real.
And you spent months on editing, filming, pre-production, post, planning this, that, and then it releases, and maybe you didn't have the right marketing plan, or you know, and it's just like, well, damn. So this is why you're seeing less big productions and more of these small form content pieces that people are putting out with now. When you do have a big piece of content where someone did a big production, you already know they're chopping it up into 20 different little clips, short form, because at the end of the day, it's those short form clips that are actually gonna
get the
big engagement.
Okay. And you also mentioned how there was a few roadblocks or challenges you've had to deal with when you started your music career. So what are some challenges that you're currently facing or you've been facing that you were able to overcome, or even overcome in a certain way?
For sure. So like the main things that the first couple of things that were always like roadblocks for me was just the space, having solid grounds to make my work 24/7 whenever I wanted to. You know, it was always, okay, you're too busy, there's too many people, too much noise, too many ins and outs. You know, that was always a big problem. So overcoming that, once we actually got the Makeway building, where it was a detached building, 3 floors, no neighbors, no landlord, no nothing to tell us that we can't do what we want to do. So I was able to fully construct my building, have all my media in there, from my photo studio, podcast room, 3 recording studios, production room, offices for companies to start up. You know, we've had companies in there like Pure Luck, Miro La Flaga, Low Class MTL. We had all sorts of producers and DJs in there, and these were all their startups. So this was the biggest thing, was just getting our own space where nobody could tell us left or right, you move, you're too busy, you're not busy enough, this and that. We're doing what we need to do, and that was the biggest thing before to overcome, to like really solidify the brand in the city. Now, it's more about how do I regain my time. That's really what I've been focusing on a lot lately. is how do I expand the brand without being locked into that studio for 8 hours a day? You know, because now I have to start delegating some work, and this is where it's becoming interesting. You know, I'm finding new engineers that could help me run the studio. I'm finding people that could start taking places so that I don't have to be locked in with the artist. I could be out there, whether it's in the States, whether it's doing things like this, and bringing the content back to the brand, whether it's a connection from out there or an interview like this that helps bring more exposure to the brand. These are all things that are, I feel, more important to help grow Makeway than being in the actual studio with artists 8 hours a day, which is what I was doing. And that takes up so much time, and I love doing it more than anything else, but there's a certain point where I'm gonna see my company plateau if I don't get out there more myself.
Right, expansion. That's
Yeah.
what I want to think. It's good because I get the impression, or I understand that there's a lot of in-house work, there's a lot of investing in the community, there's a lot of making sure that you look out for artists. So could you elaborate a little bit on how that element is very important to really invest in the community and making sure that artists are growing with you while you're doing that too?
For sure. I mean, whenever I have artists or certain companies reach out to me, I'm always interested to see if there's a way that I could be involved, I could help, I could sponsor the events. You know, we sponsored the basketball games that were happening a while ago there. We put the Makeway logo on their jerseys, and it was for the kids. They had their whole game. I believe Nate was there as well.
Right.
So always giving and supporting your community. And it's funny that we talk about this because it's kind of like when you think in different cultural communities, in the Jewish community, you know, even in the Black community, you think of different ways on how to keep the dollar within your culture, within your community. And I feel the same thought pattern should be within the music community as well. And this is where a lot of people, I feel, don't always realize that it is a community. You know, when you, let's say, this is how I started jewelry,
Right.
you know, because I would be the guy who I could offer music videos, I could offer recording, I could offer branding, but when it came to the music videos, let's say it was $2,000, it's too expensive. But then the next month, they're coming back with a $10,000 bust down diamond chain.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, damn, the money is there, so let me see. What if I'm also making the jewelry? So now when you're going to invest that money, you're not investing outside of the music community. Now when you're doing this purchase, you're investing into somebody that is gonna bring it straight back into the local community. Because I'm the type of dude that's gonna wanna bring in an artist into town. I'm gonna wanna invest into the studio. I'm gonna wanna invest into projects, into sponsoring more companies, anything that could do to raise the Montreal music community. So that mindset that different cultures have, we should be using that in the music industry too. Think about who you're investing your money into.
That's it.
Bring it straight to people that are gonna wanna put that dollar back into the music industry rather than some old guy that's been doing jewelry for hundreds of years, generational, and they're just gonna keep it them.
That's it.
Let's
Hey,
keep it for the Montreal music scene and make us expand.
that's great. And it's not like you're just talking about it. You actually do the work. You've been putting in the work for some time.
For sure, I'm not middlemaning the jewelry either. I'm doing the 3D design myself. I'm sitting down with clients, some of them who I've already made their logo for,
Right.
because I did branding for a lot of artists in the studio. So I tell them, yo, remember that logo we made? Let's put that on your neck. You know, let's put some diamonds in that. Yo, we could actually make that physical.
Right.
And it's great to have that piece that represents your brand as an artist, or even I've done it for food companies, restaurants at this
Okay.
point. It's just, it's great to have your brand with something that you could hold. Even donating to local brands and ciphers, Bars Up, they do their competition with their ciphers very often.
Right.
So I was like, yo, let me give you guys a chain so that you could give it to one of the winners.
That's it.
So you have to think, who's investing into the Montreal music scene and who's not? Who's part of it and who's not?
Right.
And then when you're making these big investments, think, is there somebody that's within the music, if there's somebody within the music scene
Right.
that does what you're looking for.
That's it.
Just like how you would look for, or, you know, I would probably look for, you know, maybe a Jewish business partner on something. Some people look for a Black business partner on something. There's so many platforms now that are supporting Black-owned businesses, Jewish-owned businesses, whatever your culture is, owned businesses,
Right.
because these are efforts into keeping your culture to support each other.
It's
And if you do research, you see how many times a dollar moves within each, with each culture. And it's very interesting to see how people support each other.
it's very interesting, like I said, that you you walk the walk, because you're able to also have artists from Wu-Tang recording at a studio at one point, and that invites collaborations at some point.
Of course.
You know?
At 2 points, we've had Wu-Tang members come by the studio. And every time that they come by, they're doing sessions with local artists. You know, when Mano came in from New York,
right,
he's doing a bunch of collabs with local artists. And I tell every single A-list or whatever, every artist that was a vet in the scene, whatever it is that comes by the studio, I tell them, you don't understand how much this is helping our music scene right now, because you're increasing our stock. You know, when you come in here and you collab with all these artists, you're bringing us up to your platform. If you think in Atlanta, you have all these big artists that live there, constantly they're bringing up the next generation, you know, just by doing tracks with them, just by bringing them on different platforms, or just by them going to platforms. Hot 97, it got as big as it is because all the New York artists that were going there.
That's a good point.
And then it pops up. Imagine if we had hundreds of A-list artists in Montreal. Well, you guarantee your platform would be A-list. You guarantee CKUT would be A-list. Every one of our radio stations would be popping because we have all the top artists in the world going there on the regular.
That's it.
But the thing is about Montreal, it's the only time they're here is when they're in for a show, and then they leave. So while they're in here for that little time frame, I've designed the studio, the space where they could actually come and it's acceptable, because even people who don't record with me, when they have that artist in there,
they know,
well, we have to bring it to Make Way because it's the only spot that's acceptable. So these are the kind of things you have to think of. I'm the guy making those investments to have an acceptable place for A-list celebrities to come to and for our industry to grow here.
That's it. Hey, it's brilliant because you're knocking multiple birds with one stone, and upselling what I get from also the fact that you invested in jewelry, and now you have a jewelry company, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Orm and Crystallini, and with all that, it's all done with 3D design. So the art, the creation, it's still there. I'm still super passionate about it because it's amazing, and also just seeing the gold come to life from a 3D print. The technology it's unbelievable how it happens now.
Got it. So since we're on the topic of Montreal, we know that Montreal is known for being a vibrant music scene, right? And how has that influenced your style, or even your approach as an entertainer or as a business person?
Well, I would say the most thing that's diverse about Montreal is the language. You know, obviously we're multicultural, we have a little bit of everything, but that's never been a hurdle or anything that would make a difference. You know, it's really the language thing, and I'm Anglophone, coming from an Anglophone background. I just had to learn how to adjust, how to get the business lingo in French, all that. You have to learn that also it's you are where you are, you know. So it's unless you want to move, which I don't. I love my city, you know. You got to make the best of it.
That's it.
You know, I never had problems working with French people. I've had some of the biggest French artists in our city come to work with me and stuff. We figure it out. You know, I have some clients right now that don't even speak a lick of English.
Jeez.
And I gotta manage. I've recorded people that don't even speak a lick of
Google
English.
Translator?
Not even. I hold myself down, you know.
Okay.
And it's funny, yo, because my mom's Moroccan.
Okay.
So, yo, my whole mom's side of the family, they're all French as fuck.
Right.
Yo, the accents that are going around, like, I can't even follow sometimes.
Okay.
It's wild. I don't know. They didn't speak to me when I was growing up in French or something.
Right.
But like, to an extent, you know, I could still hold it down. I still understand like the business lingo. If it would come to like reading a contract, I would never do that in French.
Right.
You know, but talking, getting the point across, it works. But like, to say music is so, it's such a universal language that I've even recorded people that don't speak English or French. I've had Spanish people come in, and I was able to get the session done and even do drops on the right point, just because you hear certain intonations, or you know when the bar ends. I remember cutting the beat for the guy, and he looks at me like, "Oh,
you didn't expect it, huh?
Did you know what I said?"
Okay.
You know, and I was like, wow, it just sounded good there. You know, it just kind of made sense.
Right.
He's like, okay. Yes.
Okay. No, it's like I said, it's a universal language, and you get to see you get to understand different sides of yourself as well as you're creating, and you're like, okay, you know what? I think I should adapt or even adjust a certain way whenever it comes down to that particular language, or, you know, whether it's Spanish or whatnot. You know?
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I've always learned in the studio is that every artist is different. Nobody works the same way. You have to have an open mind with every new client that's coming in, and you got to learn what works best for them. You know, some people want you to take the lead, some people want to take the lead, some people are right in the middle.
Right.
You know, it's just that's why it's just a big game of just great communication. You know, if you're just great at communicating within the studio and you guys are talking, then there should never be a problem and everyone should be comfortable, because it's super important. It's the most important thing to have the artist comfortable, because the source of sound, the first source of a sound,
Right.
comes from the instrument. And in this case, the instrument is the artist. So you got to make them comfortable. It's just like, you know, why work with an untuned guitar? Oh, we'll fix it later. No, tune it now. Make the source of your sound as best as possible. So later down the line, everything sounds as best as possible.
That's it. Wow, that's a good one. Now, what advice would you have for aspiring musicians, especially trying to make it in the music industry at the moment?
Definitely understanding how the industry works. I see a lot of great artists get caught up on being a great artist and thinking that's it. Well, if I'm a great artist, I don't need to do anything else.
Right.
You know, I'm amazing. Yo, once I put out my music, they're gonna hear it and they're gonna know.
I got 50,000 views. Like.
No, not even without the views. Once I put it out, they're gonna know.
Right.
You know, because I'm amazing. But being good these days ain't good enough. And that's the reality of it, is that there's a lot of people with very subpar talent putting out a lot of amazing content, and they're gonna get a lot more views and engagement and feedback than you are. It's just, it's almost like sad to say in a sense, where it's, you know, it's not like that anymore, where you're just like that good rapper on the side of the street and you get picked up by this label, through word of mouth. It's really labels, companies, investors, they want to see that you've already branded yourself. You're doing content. You know how to be an influencer. You know how to talk in front of the camera. Because anything other than that, it's a risk.
Right.
You know, let's just say for me, example.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, could you elaborate on that?
Let's just say I want to invest in an artist. What am I going to look for? I'm going to look at first, right away. Well, let me pull up his Instagram. It's the first thing. You do this when you meet a girl. You need this when you meet a partner. When you meet somebody new, you just, let me see who they are.
Right.
So I go to their page. So first off, I see it's blank. I hear the music, it was dope, but like I don't even know what this guy looks like. I don't know how he talks on camera. I don't know if he's wild. I don't know if he's the type of dude that's maybe going to jail every second week, and now I'm investing into him and he's going to be gone. So it's a lot of these things are things that people think about. So imagine now I go to a page. He's talking in the camera. He's already engaging with his fans, even if there's not a lot. It's okay, but he's doing it. I see there's a brand, maybe there's a website.
Right.
He's done photo shoots. He's going to the studio. There's activity happening. It's not. So now I know when I start with this guy, it's not going to be a shock.
Right.
It's not going to be new. He's not going to fanboy if I put somebody in front of him that's big.
Fanboy. Yeah, that's a big one too.
Which is the thing. It's a real thing in the industry. You know, I've seen people get cut out of shows because they fanboy too much. You know, when I was doing tours with certain artists, you see these kind of things, you know, behind the scenes. You know, I was traveling as a cameraman.
Right.
And I remember I linked up at one show. We were all cool, We go to the next show. I link up the guys, the other opening act. I was like, yo, you guys going to be there?
Right.
And then they were like, nah. They're like, we got some weird messages, I was like, what? Call the next guy. Yo, what's up with this? They're like, yo, they were fanboying, this and that. They were all over us trying to get content.
Okay.
So now it's like you're mixing these two worlds where it's like, okay, well now you have artists that are trying to do the content thing, but they're not doing it right. So it's also, you have to understand proper etiquette. And this is a big thing that I do when I start up with a company or an artist, when I'm trying to teach them how to execute on their social media plans.
Right.
I'll tell them, look, you gotta know social media etiquette. There's do's and don'ts, and it's not written rules, but people are gonna react. And pretty much all the time I see these same things. You know, as something as simple as posting a similar picture one after another.
Right.
You know, you post a picture in this shirt today, and then you post that same shirt, that same outfit, behind that wall even. You're not gonna get as many. It's not gonna go up.
That's a good point.
It's actually going to go down that second post. So how do you keep posting content so that your page keeps increasing in engagement? So there's so many little things, that being one of the simplest examples of just some things you don't do. And that's just posting wise. Then there's physical wise. You don't grab people you don't know and get all up in their face and da-da-da-da-da, because then you're just not gonna, it'll work once.
It's not gonna come off organic also.
But it won't work twice.
Right, hey.
You know? And that's the biggest thing is, how do you get repeat business? You know, it's a lot of people could scam you into working with them once or getting one shot with them or doing one little sleazy move, but at the end of the day, it's longevity, consistency. These are the things that really show.
I like that we're talking about work with people, collaborations, and collaborations seem to be a significant part of your work. Obviously, you've had a time where you were also an engineer, if I'm not mistaken.
Still am.
Still an engineer. Come on, artist, entrepreneur, jeweler. So, how would you choose your collaborators, or even what do you value most in sponsorships or even partnerships?
Well, same thing like what we just spoke about. You're reaching out to me to sponsor your thing or to invest. What's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to open up your Instagram. I'm going to see what you're doing, how you've been doing it, how you've been portraying yourself, what your message is, what you stand for. And then I'm going to see how I could implement myself. If I see there's a company that's already very well branded, I could see their photography, their events, this and that, it's all on point. Okay, what are you guys asking? You know? If I see that the branding isn't great, the flyer for their event was obviously made on Paint or some garbage program, I don't deny it, but I offer the help. So now I'm not looking to invest and sponsor you, but I'm looking for you to actually maybe hire me and my services so that I could better your brand. So now maybe the next time around, you could get bigger sponsors and you could grow yourself. But when I look at brands that aren't there yet, I say, well, look, maybe you're not ready to have me involved as a sponsor, but it's never too early to have me involved as someone that could help you with branding. So that's usually when I'll come in and I'll help with different, you know, okay, I'll get one of my photographers out there, or I'll get out there with my camera and I'll do the photography, or I'll do the graphic design, or I'll get a graphic designer. So it's every service that I offer to within Makeway, I know how to do it myself, and I have done it myself. And that's what I find very important, is you can't delegate work unless you understand the work yourself.
That's a gem right there. Now, when it comes down to, because it's good that you're talking about knowing how to do it yourself and having to hire people afterwards, but I also wanted to talk about any specific collaborators or even collaborations you would like to work on. Anybody from the city or even outside of the city, but specifically the city first.
I mean, I would love to work with like the bigger news stations. You know, I feel like a big disconnect that at least the hip hop industry has is we're not getting covered as much. I'm seeing it more and more, but we're not getting covered as much on major news stations.
Right.
We're talking about TV and not just like local radio stations like CKUT or CIBL, but those bigger ones like Virgin. You know, I mean, there's not too much room in Shome and stuff like that, but you know, these kind of more major stations in Montreal, I feel like I'd love to hear more local talent on it. I'd love to see a all hip hop station too, you know. These are definitely
Now, what's your take on it? What's your take on this idea of like people saying, okay, they're not playing enough English rap or English music on those platforms? Do you feel like it's necessary at this point? Because obviously radio is something still important, and we have technology, we have social media. But would you say that it's something that needs to be put at the forefront at the moment?
I mean, I would really see it as something like anybody that's saying that should understand, well, look, if this is the need, if you're seeing there's a demand for this, start it. Make your platform. You know, when I was starting, you know, maybe there wasn't a lot of English studio. I'm just saying, your example, I could have complained, oh, there's no English studios for me to record at. Or, I'm going to start my own English studio to record at. We're going to start our own label. We're going to start our own media team. And we're going to build what we need because there's a demand for it. And at the end of the day, complaining isn't going to make it happen. And that's why I've always, whenever there was something that didn't work with me, instead of complaining, I just figured out a better way to achieve the goal and to upgrade and to always level up.
Got it. Work with what you have.
For sure. Just put it right back in.
That's
every
it.
dollar.
And could you share a bit of, well, you touched on going on tour with different artists and discovering certain things, like for instance, an artist being fanboy and whatnot. But could you share a few experiences you've had working with promoters and certain things that they've done that either burned bridges that they could have done better, and vice versa?
Well, one promoter I was working with a lot in the city of Montreal was Ricky D. When I was coming up, he was one of the first people that I invited to my studio once it was big enough that I could start inviting people into it and being acceptable. So once I got that big location in the St. Antoine building, I was like, okay, I'm gonna call up all these promoters. I think I was like 18, 19 at the time.
Okay.
You know, I started all this super young. I was like 18. I was like, yo, I'm gonna call all the promoters that are bringing in the names to the city. I'm gonna invite them. I'm gonna introduce myself and show them what I'm working with. And, you know, let's see where it goes. You know, I had like no game plan besides like, let's just see what they're looking for. Let's see what I could offer. If there's something I could put on the table so that I could start being a part of these shows somehow. So Ricky D was actually one of the first people that came by and loved the energy. He saw my passion, and he was like, okay, well, what do you got? What are you doing? I'm like, well, look, I'm recording all these artists. Obviously, they would love to come perform. Like, let's work out something. I'll get you artists to come in, put me on, and you know, everyone's happy, you know? So for years, every A-list artist that was coming, T.I., Cameron, fucking Pusha T, Fabulous, name after name after name were coming in. I was pretty much being the quality control, where I was able to pick the clients I was working with.
Right. As an engineer?
I was an engineer, audio engineering people, and I'd be like, yo, the show's coming next week or 2 weeks. So you want to open up? Here's the deal. Da 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 da. Work it out. And if it came from me, Ricky pretty much knew. Okay, well, he already handled it. He probably already did their show edits. Right. He probably practiced with them. So I know not only is this guy coming correct business-wise, but he's going to come correct on stage. Right. You know, and he's actually going to know what he's doing, and it's going to be a real set. You know, because a lot of times you see people buy into shows and stuff, and they do some little, and they walk off. You know, and it's like, damn, that's so crazy to think of, because there's two ways to think of it, you know, this whole like buying 50 tickets, this and that, you know. There's some situations and some promoters that do that, some that don't, but at the end of the day, I have nothing against it, because I've done marketing and I've done promotion. So I know I could spend $2,000 on a Facebook post saying, I'm Anu BuDz, come listen to my music, da 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 da. Or I could pay $2,000 and I'd be in front of, let's say, I could be opening up for T.I. I could be literally physically in front of 2,000 people, telling them a message. I'm in front of 2,000 people for 15 minutes. I have that amount of time to convey a message. I could go up there and peace. It's not going to convert.
It goes back to what you said earlier.
It's how you convert. So I could put up posters now. I could put up business cards and flyers at the front of the stage. I could talk to people. You could throw out T-shirts. Connect to your fans, because people don't realize that there's no situation where you could pay money like that and literally be in front of the target audience. And it is the target audience because they're here to see a rap show. Right. You know, so it's like that 2,000 on Facebook, probably it's going to reach someone's mom, someone's grandma, somebody in Brazil that doesn't even speak my language maybe, if you didn't do your location targeting proper. You know, it's like there's things like this that happen. So I think that paying whatever to be in front of these people physically, that's one of the best promotions you could do as an artist or as a company. Shit, if I owned a restaurant, I would probably open up for an artist too. I wouldn't rap, but I'd just talk to them for 15 minutes showing my products, maybe throw out some burgers into the crowd. Because I know the crowd, they're gonna taste the burgers, they're gonna feel it, they're gonna see it, they're gonna wanna know more. And then when they leave, they're gonna research on who was that person. Selling burgers or rapping or whatever, you know, but for the context of it, it's a great marketing plan. And a lot of people bash on it, but I think it's these kind of people that have never really done marketing and that don't understand how hard it is to physically get in front of 2,000 people genuinely.
It goes back to what you said at first. I want to ask you one of the questions. You said you took a risk, taking risks. So it's a question of like, which risk are you willing to take? You're willing to invest in social media, but not necessarily getting one person or a few people to buy the ticket, or you in front of people who already bought the ticket and they're probably going to follow up quicker, you know?
It's interesting way. You just got to think of things different ways. And at the end of the day, if you utilize any situation to its maximum potential, it's going to be worth it. You know, and you just got to see, it's like, can you utilize every situation to a maximum potential? So where does that maximum potential of a concert go versus a Facebook post? There's a lot more that you could do with a concert than with that post or a Google ad or whatever you're using to advertise.
That's it. Now, when you have Make Way Studios, you also have your jewelry company and all the other projects. What are you mainly, what's your main focus at the moment when it comes down to everything that you're working on?
So I feel like in order to understand that question, or at least understand the answer, you kind of get to know like a day in the life a bit.
Right.
So me, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m., I'm going to the jewelry store and I'm doing 3D designs for people. I have people coming in for repairs, for different chains, this, that, and the next, all throughout the day. And then when it comes to around like 4, 5, 6, whatever, usually between those times, I head down to the studio. And I'm doing work either as an engineer, a photographer, videographer, web design, pretty much any brand development within the multimedia services, I'm helping out different companies do. And what's even interesting now is now that I'm in the jewelry industry, I have jewelers coming to me for my branding services because a lot of them are just old guys that don't understand how the internet works. So now I'm helping out in the jewelry, in the diamond district here in Montreal. Now I'm bringing my camera gear to the district to help out all these other jewelers.
Okay.
So all these worlds have been combining left and right, and it just really works.
Nah, that's
so
brilliant.
It's everything. So to reiterate, it's all together. And then even talking about my music, how do I manage the music with the business and this and that? Well, every time I drop a song as BuDz, or I make a move as BuDz, I get people posting, yo, you inspired me. I'm gonna record my next album with you. Yo, you inspired me. Yo, and you also reminded me I need my chain. So it's every time I'm dropping something as BuDz, everything else benefits and gains and rises up. And to me, that just goes into where my passion comes from. It's from other artists getting inspired. And I've created this just loop of people being passionate and inspired and passionate and inspired to the point where like, I'm not working. I'm loving life right now. I'm creating art, creating gold, putting diamonds in it, making the music fly, and just doing the whole content and media game to its fullest.
That's amazing. Now, we're talking about content and media, right? So how would you say what are some strategies you like to utilize in order to expand your brand on social media?
Definitely find your voice, find what resonates best with people, and create content. You know, see what type of content that you're creating resonates with an audience. And right now, how Reels and TikToks work, it's not even based on who's following you. So having a low follow count, that's out the window now. If you're making good content, it will hit.
Right.
And that's guaranteed now. And I figured that out when I started my jewelry company. I did a video, I was doing videos showing off diamonds, showing gold, this, that. It was doing well. But then I did a video of me just talking in front of the camera, telling people about the diamond district. Shit went crazy. I had people in the elevator of the building. I went to a family dinner. I had my cousins telling me they were scrolling and saw it. It was left and right. Everyone was seeing. I was like, okay. So I learned this is the type of content that works for me. This is the type of content that my people like. So then I learned, okay, well now I'm gonna just continue.
Right.
Continue with what works. I'm not saying this works for everybody. Maybe some people, they find better results doing the close-ups of things and this and that, but that's why you just have to create content until you find what hits, and then you just adjust.
Got it. You test it, double down. Test it, double down.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it. Okay.
Learn from your analytics. It's always the same thing when you're doing marketing. You've got to look at your marketing, see what hit, what didn't.
Got it. Okay, so now looking ahead, what are your long-term goals and aspirations as an entrepreneur?
I'm definitely looking to expand the brand out into the States. I've been looking at Florida and LA a lot lately, and I feel like being able to have more of a presence there is going to allow more people to be coming back to Montreal, but we need proper representation out there.
Right.
You know, Montreal needs to
I
be
just want to make sure.
spoken for out there too. You know, we bring it back home. You know, we have a lot of cats that are going out there, but You know, I don't think a lot of it's coming back home.
You're talking about make way and jewelry, or just make way for the most?
Buds and everything that comes with it.
Okay.
You know, because at this point, it's like wherever I am, I bring the brand with me. You know, so if I'm out in the States, I'm talking about the jewelry thing. And yeah, for sure the jewelry thing going out there too. But the jewelry, make way, buds, going out there just as like a multimedia content force. I think it's going to be really nice to be able to either bring back concepts that I learned from out there, like, oh, well, I saw how they were running their podcast show, or I saw how they were doing content. This is what really works, bringing it back to us to spread the love, and like, let's do more platforms like this, let's do more projects like this. So it's, my eye's definitely on Florida heavy.
That's it. Now, any final words for the people? Any artists watching this, any entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, got the gist of what you were talking about, and like, okay, how can I start? How can I get going? How can I create a buzz?
Call me. No, but like I said, be yourself, create content, and surround yourself with people that are doing great things. You know, it's obviously hard to know, especially when you're starting, but you know, you got to really just look around and see who's dedicated, who wants the same things, and who's pushing themselves to do it. That was a big thing that I think maybe held me back, is I was always trying to push people that were amazing artists, but maybe didn't fully want this for themselves. So that held me up a lot, trying to push people to do a dream that maybe they didn't fully want.
Almost got to spoon feed them. Like, hey.
Why? What's the point? Because at the end of the day, with any artist that somebody else is trying to push them for a dream, they're just going to stop. You know, and from when we started, or I don't know about you, I don't know from me, I don't know, when you started doing the whole music industry thing, how many artists have you seen stop rapping?
Many.
Plentiful. You know? And it's the same thing. You know, I have a list of 3,000 artists I've recorded at my studio, all locals, and I could guarantee you they're not all active.
Damn. 3 out of those 3,000.
For sure. And then the artist that I'm working with now, I have Gabby's an artist I'm working with now. He was recording with me when I was in the basement.
Right.
So when I started, he reached out to me now. He's like, yo, could we do like a thing where we're working together more like as team, like make way squad stuff? I was like, okay. Let me look at his Instagram. Verified, posting content, crushing it, doing this, hitting playlists, active.
Okay.
And then the other thing, even without that, was when I told him this too. I'm like, bro, you know why this is gonna work? Because you were doing this 10 years ago when I was in my basement, and you're still doing this now.
Okay.
I was like,
right.
You're not quitting. You're not quitting anytime soon.
Right.
And I know that, and it's the same thing for me, because I'll be 80 years old freestyling.
It's the passion.
For sure. So when you see that in somebody, those are the type of people that you want to be around. The ones that want it for themselves, not the ones that have to be pushed. And if you find yourself pushing your team, having to tell them to show up, getting mad at them for not showing up, for being late.
That's a good one too, yeah.
You know, obviously they don't want it. And that's how you could kind of start to tell, okay, well, I'm not surrounding myself with the right people.
That's a gem. Hey, thank you again for showing up, BuDz, Brandon, however you want to call yourself,
Mr. Make Way.
Hey. And I just want to say, man, keep on keeping on. What you're doing is amazing.
I appreciate it.
There's a lot of people that are going to be inspired or even motivated from this whole interview and everything you're doing.
Likewise.
All right, man. Love.
Man's got a book.
Appreciate it, man.
I did.